Good morning all. Shall we open some post? Yes, it's Julian's post bag. Let's start with this one, which has intrigued me for some time, so I thought I'd take the plunge and get it. And it's a pair of gloves. So why, you ask, did I buy a pair of gloves? Well, because they're supposed to be sort of immune to slashes by knives. And well, here's a knife, so we can give that a try. No English on there at all, I don't think. No, Fangi Shao Tao. So I was just intrigued. I thought, do these actually work? Can you prevent cuts on your hands with these things? Well, there's only one way to find out. I'm going to have to go very gingerly at first, of course. Oh, well, that seems to be making some sort of mark on the fabric. I'm not sure I would trust pressing really hard with that knife. I'm possibly resisting it, but I mean, you can see slash marks on there. I mean, the only way to test it really is to press really hard and see if I can chop the top of one of these fingers off. Obviously not with my hand in it. Now, I thought these were going to be made of steel or something like that. I thought they were going to be chain mail effectively, but they're not. This is plastic. I mean, it might be a fairly resilient plastic, but I'm pretty sure that's plastic. I'm going to try and cut one of these fingers off on my cutting mat. Right, here we are. Let's go at this. Well, I have to say, that's pretty good. I mean, it's certainly snagged it rather badly, but I don't think that's gone through at all. So if that's the case, I'm not sure I would have wanted to do that with my finger in it, but yeah, I'm having real trouble cutting through that. Well, it's not bad, is it? So perhaps I feel now a bit more confident to press a bit harder. Yeah, it scuffs, but it doesn't cut through. They're quite good, these. Right, I'm now actually going to cut the top of this finger off, and if it takes ages and I have to speed the video up, well, so be it. But let's just see how hard it actually is. Of course, I'm damaging my cutting mat here. I should be using my old one, shouldn't I? I wonder if what's going on here is just that these are bundles of thousands of tiny microfibers, and it just takes an age to cut through them. It just takes so many swipes with the blade to cut through all these fibers. Perhaps that's how it works. It is cutting them. You can see that they are a little bit chopped up, but I'm having a real job cutting that finger end off. Right, old cutting mat, here we go. And yes, I've done it. I've cut the finger off the top of these gloves, but it must have taken, I don't know, 20 or 30 quite hard push swipes on there. So yeah, I mean, you can cut this thing. It's just it takes a lot of cuts. I suppose they're quite good, really. So that's what it did to my cutting mat, and that's what it looks like now. Should we see a little bit closer? Yes, there are a lot of fibers there, so I think it's just thousands of fibers, and it just takes a long time to cut through. So these are described as cut metal mesh butcher anti-cutting protective glove, stainless steel. I mean, this metal mesh and stainless steel was what gave me the impression these might be like chainmail, but they're not. They're plastic. They're just a very tough plastic and lots of fibers. It takes a long time to cut through them. $4.19 for a pair. That's not a huge amount. These pictures of serrated knives, I'm not sure I'd have wanted to do that with a serrated knife. With a straight blade, maybe. Free shipping, and these came from 26 Just Easy Buy. Okay, next is this one. The knife seems to still be able to cut. That's good. And it's a PIR sensor. It's black and it has a 4-way connector. Let's take a look. It has a teeny tiny manual, 12 to 24 volts, 6 amps, 8 meter range, 1 to 10 minutes. That's a long time. There's the adjustable. Oh, these are minutes. Gosh, that's a really long time. This, I think, comes out, doesn't it? It's a 2-part connector. Ah, here we are. Some stuff. 12 to 24 volts, model PIR8. Now, this is so small that I'm figuring this can't possibly have a relay in it. So let's take it apart and find out. 2 screws. I'm going to move that manual because it's affecting my exposures. White paper tends to do that. Yes, I'm expecting it to have that MOSFET circuit. So I'm kind of expecting to see 2 MOSFETs in parallel. Let's find out. Yes, there's our 2 MOSFETs in parallel. Here's our PIR detector. Now, why has it got this strange shield on it? Oh, it comes off. How interesting. I wonder why they put that on it. That's really weird. I'll have to have a think about that. PIR detector, that's probably a BISS 0001. Couple of MOSFETs. Yes, they look like they're in parallel just from the tracking. A pot for time delay, but the time delays, or the times, are really long. I suppose, actually, if you change the pot and possibly a capacitor, you could shorten them, because I'm interested in sort of 10 to 20, possibly 30 seconds. I don't need 10 minutes. Yes, BISS 0001. Now the MOSFETs are 09N03, but yeah, I'm just going to check that actually. 09N N-type, I suppose. 03, is that 90 volts, 3 amps? Check it out. So this is actually the DTU part that's marked on the device. So this is the actual device. And it's a 30 volt, 55 amp or 65 amp, depending on the gate voltage. I think I read a bit too much into those numbers. Some of the MOSFETs have the sort of current and voltage ratings as part of the part number, but clearly not this one. So 30 volts, that makes sense because this is a 12/24 volt PIR. But yeah, fully heat sinked, they're talking in the order of 50 amps with no heat sinking, of course, 2 in parallel. Any more than 6 amps and this thing would get a bit hot. So it looks like this device is a kind of reimagining of this one. This one's rated 8 amps, but this had the 2 MOSFETs in parallel. The only thing that's different about this one is it doesn't have a place for a CDS. These don't come with an LDR, a light dependent resistor, but there is a place on the board to fit one. There doesn't appear to be on this board. So this is going to operate day and night, I think. Okay, that's interesting. It's a model PIR8, and in fact, it says on the board here, SPIR 8A version 3.3. So it looks like it's rated for 8 amps on the unit, but the manual says 6 amps. Well, they probably changed their minds. Well, now, there's not much holding this domed lens in. I can push it out. Oh, it's shot across the room. But you can also pull it out that way. So it looks to me like this was intended to sit, come back here, on these pegs, and possibly they were meant to melt these down so that this is fitted in there a bit more securely, but it's a strange design. Well, okay, so if you want very long delay times and operation during daylight hours, well, this is the PIR. Oh, and no click from a relay and no mechanical issues possibly with a relay. Well, this is the device for you, but yeah, it's different in some ways to that one. Let's put it back together and then have a quick look on eBay at what it cost and maybe the spec. So this one is automatic DC 12 volts to 24 volts, 8 amps, it says here. Infrared PIR, motion sensor switch for LED light best, $3.66, that's not too bad. Free shipping. This one came from World Chips. Let's see if there's any spec. So lots of waffle here, easy to install, no flickering, stable, mainly used to control LED light lamps and LED strip. You can conveniently light auto on off. Yes, okay. 12 to 24 volts, 5 to 8 meters, 120 degrees, temperature range, 8 amps, Static power consumption less than 1 watt. Delay time 60 to 120 milliseconds. I don't think so. Dimensions, weight, and color. No mention, of course, of not operating during daylight, because of course this one will. And the next one is, and I'm going to be a little bit careful with this one. I think, in fact, I'll open it that side, because this is a delicate item. It's in an anti-stat bag. Oh, it's half in an anti-stat bag. Yes, it is probably, in fact, I think it must be, the largest dual line chip ever made. Yes, it's the 64-pin dual inline 68,000 CPU, and this I bought as part of a challenge when I did the Z80 on breadboard, and then I did a 6809 on breadboard. I'm going to try doing a 68,000 on breadboard. It's going to have to be a bigger breadboard. These pins look like they're all in. Oh, there's one slightly bent on that corner, but it's not bad. This is not anti-stat foam. Oh, the corners are a little bit bent, but that's not too bad. I can straighten that out, no problem at all. So the plan here, of course, is very much like this 6809 on breadboard. I'm going to put the 68,000 on breadboard and utterly trivialize its fantastic 16-bit inner workings to make a glorified LED flasher. This chip does look slightly different in that the old 8-bit chips put their data on the bus, waited a certain amount of time, and assumed that the memory would pick it up, or that the memory would provide data. This one has some sort of acknowledgement, toing and froing, and I've looked a little bit into it, but it does look a little bit complicated. But hopefully I can get this to be a 24 LED flasher, because this has 24 address pins and it has 16 data pins, although I've got a funny feeling, actually no, it's address A0, that's an odd one. I don't think you use it because you step up in address steps of 2 or something like that. Got a little bit of work to do thinking about this one, getting it on breadboard, getting it flashing LEDs, but what a beautiful chip. So I bought the One Pieces MC68000P8 CPU vintage microprocessor. This CPU was in the Mac, I think. Was this in the first Mac? The Mac Plus and the Mac SE and all that sort of thing. I think it was. This is $4.19. That seems quite reasonable. Oh, $1.50 shipping. And it came from Huawei Components. Right, let's do these ones together because they're related. This is, fuel filter and a fuel valve. Yeah, just a ball valve would be my guess. More fuel filters and ball valves. I think there's 3 of each. And lots of these little clips. Fuel filters, fuel valves, on and off valves, and clips. And I'll just open this one as well. And this one is a Y-shaped splitter. Again, it's this 1/4 inch or 6 point something millimeters pitch. So yes, this is also for fuel, all related of course to the diesel heater, because I've yet to do my video on running the diesel heater on vegetable oil. These don't look very sort of steel. I just want to check whether they will spring back from, oh yeah, they do, fully expanded, spring back to something that might even grip the large diameter pipe. It's going to be that fat rubber pipe that came with the fuel line that has an internal diameter that will fit over there, and this is the external diameter. It's around 10 millimeters, I think. Yeah, maybe slightly more. That's interesting. Inside the fuel filter, there's just a random magnet that's just been sort of shoved in there. I suppose the idea, it's a bit like the MagnaClean on my boiler, my heating system, is that any tiny fragments of ferrous metal coming in here will just attach themselves to the magnet and not end up clogging the filter. It's quite an interesting idea. So it looks like there's just a basic paper filter and a magnet. Yeah, they're fairly basic. I think these were pretty cheap. So now these, is it just a ball valve? Is there any way I can see that? Well, it's not a straight path through there, but you can see some reflections when I open and close it. So it's definitely some sort of ball thing, but no, it doesn't go straight through. That's interesting. I wonder why it's like that. Oh, sorry. On the top of this, it's just got... Oh, that's interesting. I think there's a little diagram saying, don't put fuel through it. Yes, I think that's a petrol pump with a line through it, isn't it? So it kind of hints not suitable for use with fuel. Oh well, probably be alright with diesel. So the kit is a 3-kit, 1/4 inch inline fuel gas filter shut-off cut-off valve clamp for Brigg and Stratton. Now, I think Brigg and Stratton is a manufacturer of lawnmowers. I think that's the case. It's a very cheap kit, $3.47 free shipping. Came from Best Trade 360, but none of these photos really show that cut-off valve with its do not use for fuel symbol. So, interesting. And the splitter is brass barbed Y splitter joiner connector pipe fitting air fuse hose. 6mm, of course, because I wanted the 1/4 inch one. 99 cents, free shipping from 7HK, Hong Kong, I assume. 8918. Now, I wanted a plastic one, but I couldn't find one. You just could not find a plastic Y splitter, so I had to go for the brass one. I suppose it'll be fine. And finally, it's an integrated circuit. I think there are 2 of them in here, but it's one of the most unusual shaped integrated circuits you're ever likely to see. Yes, it's in here. So yes, it's 2 of these things with 3 pins coming out of that side and 2 massive fat pins coming out of the other side. And of course this is a current sensor, and I think it's for something like 50 or 100 amps. I can't remember. It's certainly a lot of current. Now, I didn't realize this was going to be soldered onto a board. Let's get in a little bit closer. And I've also discovered there's a chip on the back. Let's wait for the old focusing thing to happen. And that says 2272. Is that an op amp? Yes, they're Texas Instruments TLC 227 2 and 4, which are the dual and quad op amps. They're advanced Lin CMOS rail-to-rail operational amplifiers. I don't remember seeing that in the eBay listing, so let's quickly switch to that. So this is the item I bought. It's current sensor IC ACS758 LCB-050B. A load of stuff following it. I'm not sure what all that is. There is a select box here, and there are... we've got ICs or modules for the 50. You won't be able to see this, I don't think. For the 50 amp, and there is also a 100 amp IC or module. It's not clear from the photograph whether this is supplied not soldered in or soldered in. Well, mine have certainly been supplied soldered in. $2.20 for one of these, and yet I paid $6 something. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe there is another listing with Alice of this thing, which just looks a bit different and is more expensive. I don't know what the difference is, quite honestly. Anyway, $2.20, free shipping. Alice 110 1983. But certainly that eBay listing had the op amp on the board, so maybe the output from this thing doesn't have a very wide swing and you need to amplify it. I don't know. I'm going to have to look into this. I'm not even sure why I bought this. In fact, I do remember I was watching a fully charged video about electric cars, and someone had invented some sort of charging thing, and I saw this on their circuit board and I thought, what a pretty chip. That'll look good on a Postbag. So I don't actually have a use for this, but thinking about it, I may have just thought of one. But I do need to look into why that op amp is required, and why can't you just use the output straight from the ACS chip. Interesting. And so these are today's Postbag items. Now, big thanks as usual to my sponsor JLC PCB, who manufacture printed circuit boards. Also, a big thanks to my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to be a Patreon supporter, click here. another couple of videos up here if you want to watch more of my stuff. And if you want to subscribe to my channel, click here. Cheerio!